What up? We are talking about branding and soul connections and making that energy work in your favor. This is this week's episode of Renegade as Fuck. I'm Tanya Daka of TanyaDaka.com.
And I'm Robin John Rosenhaus of RobinJRosenhaus.com.
Welcome to Renegade as Fuck, episode 6 of season 1. I am Tanya Daka of TanyaDaka.com. Here with...
I am Robin John Rosenhaus of RobinJRosenhaus.com.
Woot woot!
Woot,
And we're kicking it this morning on a Friday morning as opposed to our previously scheduled Sunday evenings because Robin, being the energy genius that she is, we were like, let's take it up a notch. Let's go up a notch. So we are hitting it on a party day. So hopefully we are going to bring you guys some ass kicking this morning. Speaking of ass kicking, did you get your ass kicked this week?
Did I get my ass kicked this week?
Yeah. Did you get your
by
ass
you?
That wasn't what I was expecting. Okay. Well,
ass all the time.
That threw me off.
And I kicked yours back. So we're good.
Yeah, this is true. This is true. Yeah, next level shit going on now. So we're kicking ass all over the place. But this week, we noticed that the brand is the creative that hits the soul before the words do. I don't know where we were talking about that, but with energy work, is that what you find to be true? People sort of perceive the energy of the brand before they even go anywhere else.
Well, first of all, people perceive energy before they go anywhere else. Like, and they don't even recognize it. So even when they see something, they're perceiving the energy. It's, fractions of a second before, but they're getting it. And so, when you're looking at those more luxury brands, like there's some luxury brands you look at and it's like, meh. And there's other luxury brands that you look at and it's like, oh, and it's all, and it's all in the heart and the soul that they're putting behind it that changes that energy and changes the experience, And if you know them, if you know something about them, then that adds to it too. Right.
So when our people are developing their branding, if they want to really amp up the level of what they're bringing to the world, then they really need to get into it. Like it needs to be from their soul, like you said. If it's not from their soul, it completely loses, it jumps into a disconnect when it's online, like you said. So it's a great point.
Yeah, like I feel like that's where you need to back it up with more advertising. Like I've been talking about Oreos this week, and isn't it funny? I'm wearing black and white today. No wonder I wanted to wear this today. So Oreos are like one of those foods that I miss, that I know that if I taste it, I'll get that first bite and it'll be like, oh. And then it'll just be like, but then it'll just be like, But anyway, that wasn't the point. Mm-hmm. The point, the point is, it's like Oreos, they have their branding. It's, the visual part of the branding is no big deal. There's no heart behind it. There's no soul, but they manufacture it with their commercials. And we don't have that same kind of luxury, I think, when we're creating our home brands. Right. Even if you got big money behind you online, because there's just, everybody is online. When it's on TV, you're sitting there, you're kind of, in that hypnotic state. Right. And that makes everything more impactful. Yeah. So I feel like we got to find ways of creating that online.
Yep. Creating that emotional connection with that's with storytelling is one way that you can do that, right? And Keith Griffiths is really, really amazing at helping people get their stories out there and told. getting their stories out there and told. We're trying to get school started for the day. And these portions of us that we think don't really have a bearing on our brand or who we are actually make up who we are and what our brand is. So, but we don't think about that because it's just integral to who we are, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Pause this for 1 second. Come, let me get this thing.
Pause the recording.
Okay. Oh, I don't know how to do that.
Oh.
The boss will cut it out.
Okay.
There's money. Here you go. Yeah, it doesn't need to sit there, especially with Bird down. Thank you. It's about fair. Does that count? We'll talk about that later. All right. So, okay. Back again. So, anyway, so these stories that we don't really think about, that we don't feel lend anything to who we are online or what our brands are, really do make an impact. And they bring that emotional connection to the forefront. But it just gets, you have to get to the point where you can recognize your stories, right? Like if you don't sit down and tell yourself the stories, how did you get to where you are? I was looking through memories yesterday on Facebook, and it threw up a video from 2016. Oh my God. But I was telling a story about how I got to where I got. And I was like, oh, I freaking forgot about that. Right? Because I haven't made it like an integral part of my branding or anything. So like the stories that you don't think anything about, sit down and see how you can flesh them out and put them into your brand and make your brand more from the soul.
Yeah. And it's funny that you say that because, when I talk about, first of all, I rarely talk about my story, which same thing, I should be more, because there's all these reasons, but also, David was watching this documentary this week on, how do you say his name? Thich Nhat Hanh, the Vietnamese monk.
Oh yeah, I don't know how to say his name. Yeah.
Right. And I know they call him Thich, whatever. So, and he was talking about like when things happen, right, that you feel really, really bad about. So there was this one story in it where they're talking to this guy, and this is relevant to this, talking to this guy who was a Vietnam vet. And one of the things that he did was he killed 5 children when he was in the war, like, right. Mm-hmm. And it was like, can you imagine, like, it's eating at his soul for his entire life. Mm-hmm. And so he's been trying to make amends for it. And so Thich Nhat Hanh said to him, well, instead of, sitting in the guilt and all of this, go out and save 5 children. Right.
Wow.
And, right. So telling you that because what happened then was, one of the reasons I started my business because I didn't want people to feel like I felt. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, crap. But really, the real reason I started this business was my mother.
And that's wild.
Right? Because my mom didn't know there were other ways to be. Like she grew up traditional Italian, Brooklyn, whatever. Mm-hmm. And she was very much she lived for family. And so once she didn't have to take care of my grandmother anymore, I was out of the house. My brother was out of the house. My father was out working. Like she had nothing at that point, like on a daily basis. Right. So it was only holidays. And that messed with her mind, she ended up going into depression and this and that and never found her way out,
Yeah.
And I was like, that's really why I do what I do.
Right.
because I want people to see that there is a way out, that there is another way of being, that there are other possibilities. And and it's like, to me, that personally, that amplifies my story, because I'm more emotionally connected to that.
Yeah.
Because it was from the observer standpoint, instead of sitting there talking about only all the meds that I used to be on, and only, you know, no longer working in the family business. And so I don't know how I'm going to start working that into things, but.
Well, you definitely need to. That would be, I mean, that's part of having it all. I'm having it anyway, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's another path. You don't have to stay on the path you're on, you know. And
you can make your own rules.
Yeah. And taking people through that process of moving beyond the stories that they have ingrained in themselves, so that they can have those other realities that they want. I mean, it's huge. It's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't wait for the rebrand of I'm having it anyway.
Yeah. And we need to come up with a different name for that too. But that's a whole other story.
Yeah. We'll do that. We'll jam on that soon. But yeah, so the whole, what we want to bring to today's episode, though, from the end is that if you want a meaningful brand that really emits and evokes that energy, as soon as someone lays their eyes on your branding, then you need to put yourself into it. You need to put your story behind it. You need to be that brand, and that's what you put on. Not the contrived stuff that you find elsewhere, where people are, going through these sort of empty motions of trying to uncover who they are. And one of the questions that was asked in a group that I'm in was, what do you think it takes to succeed? And I was like, well, skills, because if you don't have a skill, then you're only opening a business because you need some money, and it's not going to work like that. And then the second thing you have to have is conviction. And that conviction comes from the soul. That conviction is what is translated into your branding, whether it's, whether your branding is rebel or edge or, or luxury, whatever. Like your essence, your conviction about what you're doing and who you're there for has to be in that. So this week, I challenge people to go forward looking for themselves and their branding, not just the pretty colors and the pretty fonts.
Yeah. And it's like, because that's the other thing. I mean, it's finding yourself in your branding, but also portraying it in such a way that the people you want to work with can recognize it.
Well, I challenge that, because if you are that and you are showing up, your people are going to recognize that. Right?
Yeah, you think?
So you're not, because when you are putting your soul essence out there, they can't not recognize you. Your people can't not recognize you.
Yeah, I go back and forth with that, because the visual has its own energy as well. And it's like, I feel like there's got to be a way for it to also harmonize. Like if I were to make my branding the way I really want to make my branding, I mean, you guys used to laugh at my that I adored. It becomes it's garish to other people. And the thing is, the people I work with are, they're type A personalities, and they're much more grounded in their desires. Like, I'm very real, but I'm also, I would have all sparkles here, that.
Well, I think you've done well with you've incorporated sparkles into 90% of what you have.
Yeah, but it's not enough. But that's it. So I feel like there's a way to have enough of you. Like you said, I have incorporated sparkles, have enough of like what you like, but in a way also that is not going to turn off people because the visual is part of the energy. That's my opinion.
The translation. It's the translation. Right. Yeah. Well, okay. So in this way, so I will concede at this with this, because in this way, what we're talking about is actual just translation. Like there are different ways to translate the same words into different languages. So if you use Spanish, the Spanish, we're going to recognize it. If you use, Italian's going to recognize it, right? So it's still the same it's still the same energy, but just translated in a new way. So I will concede to that. It's still you, but it's not bending you. It's just a different translation of the same essence.
Yeah, it's exactly like what we do. And it's exactly what we do in conversations though, right? It's like when you're talking to somebody, if you want them to hear you, you'll start mirroring some of their words and blah, 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 blah. You're not changing who you are. You're just incorporating some of them into your thing. But the one thing I want to say that I don't know why it just keeps running through my head is going back to the story for the second and being you. And I know we didn't use the word authentic. I hate that word, but being authentic, blah, 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 and transparent. That does not mean though, that like you have to share your deepest, darkest secrets, right? Like, sure. And some people think that when they start going into their branding and they have to tell their story, like you still get to keep your private.
Yeah.
Like, you get to share the part of your story that's relevant in the way that works for you. And that is what will get across, your journey.
Yeah. It's knowing what your readers are going to connect with versus thinking you just have to air all of your dirty laundry in order to be acceptable. Going back to what we said just a second ago, because I this thing has been in my head for like 2 days, and it's RuPaul and his masterclass advertisement. Oh, you like money? Put on a suit. You're not changing who you are. You're stepping into a narrative that's already in play in their heads. And I was like, and so I will forever see RuPaul sitting and saying that. Oh, you like money? Put on a suit. Because I'm going, no, I'm not putting on a suit. Damn it, I'm putting on a suit.
And you know what? Like, you don't have to put on the suit, but putting the suit on will make it easier.
Yes, it opens doors faster.
Yeah,
it opens doors faster. Like people like them because who you are is also translated into your what you wear. And so if you are able and you have that ability to step into that higher level, then you kind of owe it to yourself to do that. You're not doing yourself any favors by putting restrictions on that kind of showing up. But yeah, this has been really freaking awesome. I'm really digging where we went with this today. Since we have no rules, we didn't do the thing. I forgot the what's it called? The tagline. There we go. I was calling it the logo the other day, and I was like, "That's not right. It's a motto." No, it's not right. And I finally had to get a tagline. It like took me 15 minutes to get to the word tagline. And I'm like, I don't know what I was drinking, but
the copywriter can't remember the words. That's because you were too much into the emotion and the soul.
I guess. So,
or whenever they watch it.
Or whenever they watch it. Exactly. My brain is in we're teaching class and people are sitting in the audience right now as we're teaching. So, anywho, awesome.